And a very pleasant good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Tornado Talk. We are here live every Monday night at Dugan's Pub, 29 West French Broad Street in Brevard, North Carolina, where we talk all things Brevard College athletics. Have an exciting show on tap tonight. We'll be talking men's basketball, women's basketball, some football, and also preview the track and field season that's coming up. Do want to thank our sponsors, Arby's, Jets Pizza, Holiday Inn Express, Hampton Inn, Ingles, Mission Sports Medicine, Comporium, Pepsi, and the home of Tornado Talk, Dugan's Pub. Do want to catch you up on some of the activity around Brevard College athletics since we saw you last. First, an announcement from the baseball side of things. Coach Mike Victory has appointed a new volunteer assistant coach, and this is a coach with a lot of experience. Steve Huck comes from the state of Minnesota down here to Brevard, North Carolina. 17 years as the head baseball coach at Rochester Community and Technical College in Rochester, Minnesota. Just amassed a very impressive record there, and he will be part of Coach Victory's baseball coaching staff. The Tornadoes will open their campaign February 8th and 9th at the USA Baseball National Training Complex in Cary, North Carolina. That's a series versus William Peace University. And so things are heating up with Brevard College baseball. Women's basketball had two very compelling games this past week. The first one, the Tornadoes fell just short to Maryville, 68-66. This game came down to a buzzer-beating shot by the Tornadoes that could have won the game but bounced the wrong direction, and Maryville escapes with the win, 68-66. We'll be talking that game along with the other game that happened this weekend, a loss to Berea, one of the top teams in the USA South, leading the West Division with an 8-0 record, 15-2 overall, and Berea topped Brevard over the weekend. We'll be talking women's basketball with head coach Donald Hudson, along with a couple of the women's basketball student athletes, Elena Perez and Taisha Washington. Next up for the women's basketball team, a trip to Demorest, Georgia versus Piedmont this Wednesday, and then back at home at the Boschmer Gymnasium this Saturday versus Huntington. And that brings us to our first guest of the evening, head men's basketball coach Lee Burgess. Coach, thanks for joining the show as always.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Well, Coach, I do want to start to catch folks up past Tuesday, 6 days ago, and the big news at that game at Covenant was Levi Lamb breaking the 1,000-point barrier. You know, on a night that I know the result from a team standpoint didn't turn out the way it was intended. However, need to celebrate this Levi Lamb milestone because it doesn't happen too often. In fact, only 5 members of Brevard's NCAA are a 1,000-point club, and Levi is now part of that. Just the names for, some of the longer time, basketball fans around here: Jonathan Whitson, Miles Leathers, who's now an assistant coach here, Josh Roper, and Steve Williams, and now Levi Lamb. So if we can just start with that, Levi Lamb breaking the 1,000-point mark, and just how meaningful that is on any level of college basketball.
Yeah, any level of college basketball, that's an accomplishment. 1,000 points is a lot of points, and so a lot of things go into that. Usually you have to have been playing early as a freshman, which a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do, and I think that kind of speaks to your readiness to contribute right away. So that's one factor. Being able to stay eligible, just from an academic standpoint, you usually have to do that, which Levi's done. Being able to stay injury-free, and then being a good basketball player is the other part of that, obviously. And Levi's had all those other things go well for him, injury-free, and been able to get out there and play a lot. And he's a really good basketball player, and he's been able to put up a lot of points for us. And so, he and I have talked kind of through the process, and that's a big part of his legacy that is cemented in place, and nobody can take that from him, which is outstanding. And he will always be a member of the 1,000-point club, which is great. And he's worked really hard and deserves all these things that are kind of coming to him as he closes it out. And, talking to him a little bit about some other things. And there's still some games left to play and still some legacy left to write, not just from a statistical standpoint, but just from a leadership standpoint that we want to make sure we're paying attention to. And Levi is. He's doing great with that. All these accolades that are going to be starting to come his way because of the career he's had, he's certainly earned and deserved.
Well, Levi Lamb made headlines the very next game as well. Game 3 of a 3-game road stretch, a performance by Levi Lamb, a career best 30 points at Pfeiffer. The game goes into overtime, ends up going Pfeiffer's way 94-87, but just a knockdown, drag-out type of battle between these two clubs.
Yeah.
For folks who might not have been able to tune in and catch it on the live stream, can you sort of take the audience through the ebbs and flows of that game?
Yeah, unfortunately, I can. I can definitely do that and relive it. Thanks, Phil. Just kidding. Yeah, it was back and forth most of the game. I don't know what their largest lead was, what our largest lead was, but there was not big spreads one way or the other. It was really close kind of throughout. They had a lead most of the second half, and we made a little push on them there towards the end of regulation, and I know Hop made a three just over a minute to go that I think put us up 2 possessions.
Right, 79-74 with a minute 15 left.
I was trying to think if it was 5 or 4 because I thought that we fouled them on their end of the floor, and they made both free throws to cut it to 2, and so it might have been a 4-point spread that Hop gave us that lead, but we were up 2 possessions. I know that with just over a minute to go, and they ran a play, and we were not able to defend them without fouling, and they made both free throws to cut it to 2. We had the ball and ran a play, and they fouled us, and we went to the line up 2 with 18 seconds left, and we missed the front end of a 1-and-1, and they were able to come down and draw another foul with 10 seconds left and made both free throws again to tie the game. So we had the ball 10 seconds left in a tie game, and we put it in Levi's hands, and he went to the rim, and kind of a coin flip on call or no call, and we did not get the call. The ball went out of bounds on them, so off them. So we got the ball back with 3 seconds left, and called timeout, ran a baseline out of bounds play. We got a decent look at the rim at
Josh
the buzzer.
Wilson, correct? At
the buzzer that did not go in, and that sends the game to overtime. They hit a 3 right off the bat in overtime to go up 3. We had an empty possession. They got up to a 2-possession lead pretty quickly in overtime, and it just kind of stayed there until we had to start fouling them at the end. Our guys laid it out there. I was very proud of their effort. We played really, really hard, and it definitely stings when you lay it out there like that and you come up short. But we had some guys statistically play well, but in general, our team togetherness and camaraderie and spirit for that game was at a high level, which you love to see as a coach. I was definitely proud of them, and wish we could have done a few things better. And everybody looks at. I encourage everybody to look at what they do. Look at yourself. What could you have done better? And I'm kind of kicking myself. I wish I could have come up with a little bit better baseline out of bounds play at the end of the game to give us a better look at the rim to win the game. But we got a decent look that didn't go down. But I wish I could have done something a little bit better to give us a better look. Everybody has room for improvement there for sure, but really proud of the guys for how they laid it out there in that game.
Just a back and forth affair, 10 lead changes, 10 ties, and of course goes into overtime. Well, home sweet home, back here at the Boschmer Gymnasium tomorrow, Tuesday, versus Piedmont. It's the first home game since January 5th, so it's been a long stretch with road games in conference play, and I'd like to kind of address that. What does this mean to finally be back on your home court and have that, crowd advantage and, your own locker rooms and that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, you get to sleep on our own bed and don't have to get on a bus, and you get to eat pregame meal in the cafeteria, not have to worry about a restaurant, and just all the stuff that goes into the road that everybody has to deal with. But yeah, we have dealt with it 3 times in a row now, so it will be nice to be back at home. Even the 2 games that we had at home prior to going on the 3-game road trip with Methodist North Carolina Wesleyan, students we weren't in class then at that point, so students weren't there. So it's been a long time since our guys have been able to play at home in front of their friends. They've been able to play in front of their family, but not necessarily their classmates. That's been a long time, and so that'll be good. I think that'll give us some good energy, and hopefully we'll get a good crowd out there that'll put some good put a good buzz into the gym, and that'll energize our guys to go play hard.
In Piedmont, from a matchup standpoint, can you help with the kind of the scouting report on Piedmont?
Yeah, it's kind of a motion offense kind of team, and they move the ball well, set a lot of screens away from the ball, a lot of slipping action. They've got some good players. They've got 4 guys averaging in double figures, so it's not really one guy that you can key on to try to stop. They've got some guys that that do some things well. Number 11 for them, their point guard, really good player off the bounce, getting to the basket both with his right hand and his left hand. And he's a senior. He's been around for a while. Good player. They've got a freshman, number 24, who is shooting the ball extremely well from the arc. That's also averaging in double figures. And then their kind of 4-man, number 35 for them, Foot, is their leading scorer. He shooting 40% from the arc. That's not really what he does. He's more kind of catching in the mid post and then just kind of going to work. But he's a tough matchup because he's got good size, he's got good skill set, he's long and can kind of get to his spots and make some unorthodox looking shots. And so, again, it's not one guy that you can key on. They've got a handful of guys that can put the ball in the basket. Defensively, they give you a little bit different look with their zone. It's extended. It's not really a 2-3. It's not really a 3-2. It's kind of a 2-1-2, but it's extended. It's different. It's a unique kind of prep. A lot of times you go play these games and it's going to be man-to-man, and they're going to high-hedge ball screens, and da-da-da-da. And it's some of the preps can be very similar to each other, and this one is a very unique prep. And so, we spent some time definitely film and practice floor today, and trying to get our guys ready for it. But try to encourage them to it. It may take us a little bit of game flow to kind of get our footing under us, and not to get frustrated with that. Just keep trying to do what we do and just find the soft spots, find our rhythm, and we'll be all right once we find our rhythm. But it may take a little bit for us to get there just because of the uniqueness in how they play.
Now, it's also the Coaches versus Cancer Suits and Sneakers game, and this is a wonderful nationwide initiative. You catch it on ESPN or CBS, oftentimes, and you see the coaches on the sidelines wearing sneakers with their suits, and it's all to raise awareness and ultimately funding and that kind of thing for cancer research and to fight this terrible affliction. Can you talk a little bit personally, in what Brevard might have plans for tomorrow?
Yeah. So I'll be in tennis shoes. That reminds me, I need to remind Coach Miles to wear his tennis shoes tomorrow. I've communicated with the Piedmont coaches; they'll be in sneakers as well. But it's just I've got to make sure that I've got my good clean tennis shoes to put on with my suit. And anytime you see somebody wearing tennis shoes with a suit, then it looks a little different. And so it's definitely an easy lead in with it. Why are you wearing tennis shoes? And you can go into, it's to raise awareness for just Coaches versus Cancer, and raise awareness, like you said, of it, hopefully funding, for cancer research. But yes, nationwide for the whole week. And as you watch games, like you said on ESPN, especially over the weekend, it's really, I think, it's kind of 50-50 during the week if coaches do it. Some will, some won't. But it is it's a very high representation of the coaching community that does it, especially on this weekend coming up. That'll be in tennis shoes. And it's an easy conversation starter because of the oddity of how it looks.
Yeah, and just a little behind the curtain in the world of broadcasting, it's actually a very common move, like day in, day out, for news anchors to wear the suit, but then the tennis shoes. Just because they go with the comfort and they know it'll never be on camera.
Right.
But of course, the idea with these head basketball coaches and basketball coaching staffs is to get them on camera and raise the awareness. Well, hats off, Coach, that you guys are able to really make a lot out of that initiative. Coaches versus Cancer Suits versus Sneakers game. That's tomorrow, Tuesday at the Boschmer Gymnasium. And come on out. It should be great to see the team back in action at home versus Piedmont. Now, later in the show, we're going to have Levi Lamb on the show along with Hayden Castle. And we've talked quite a bit this program about Levi, but would like, from your perspective, to describe Hayden Castle a bit, and both on the court and off the court, what kind of person and player he is.
Yeah, well, he's hardworking both on and off the floor. So on the floor, that's what he hangs his hat on. He's a smart player, but he's tough and he's hardworking. He doesn't. He's having to play out of position a little bit just because of our roster makeup, and so he's got to get down there and battle with those big guys a lot. And he doesn't a lot of time have the size that they do, but he works extremely hard and makes up for it with his grit. He's kind of finding his niche with offense and how to go score and those kind of things that he's continuing to improve on. Off the floor, I don't know anybody that doesn't like him. I think he's a really good guy, and I think he's very trustworthy. I think he's got a lot of responsibility in the work-study program that people trust him to handle some big responsibilities, which is awesome. And I just love having him be a representative of our program because he does it the right way and does it well.
Now, Hayden's from Kingsport, Tennessee, and Levi's from Atlanta, Georgia. We've got representation on the team from a number of different places. But one thing I don't think I've ever talked to you, Coach, on air about is sort of geography of recruiting and what makes sense for Brevard College men's basketball. Can you address that a bit, and maybe sort of the some of the sweet spots throughout the southeast for you?
Yeah, it's changing a little bit just because of how our financial aid packaging and structure is changing some. I mean, when we were recruiting Hayden and Levi, we would give the half tuition scholarship to a select few counties here around us. Now that's expanded to the entire state of North Carolina and the entire state of South Carolina. And so I think that just because of that packaging, I'm hoping that North and then South Carolina can be really, really good to us. Now, we would take Hayden and Levi all over again if we could, and that's obviously Atlanta and like you said, Kingsport, Tennessee. East Tennessee is not that far from us, so it's an easy trip for us to get over there. And Kaylin Johnson, who was previous assistant, had a handful of contacts over there in East Tennessee, and so was able to kind of find Hayden and Levi as well in Atlanta. Georgia's been decent to us down in Atlanta, and Atlanta's got a lot of basketball players down there. And so Atlanta's not a bad trip. East Tennessee is not a bad trip. So while, yes, they're out of state, I mean, Atlanta's 3 hours away. East Tennessee is closer than that. So it's not that. It's closer than Raleigh, Durham. Is something like that. But because of our financial aid packaging, I can see eventually just, North and South Carolina being areas that we hit heavily just because of how we've structured our financial aid packaging.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, Coach. Well, one more time, folks, come on out Tuesday, that's tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. at the Boshemer Gymnasium when the Brevard College men's basketball team will be back in action. First home game since January 5th versus Piedmont. Also the Coaches versus Cancer suits and sneakers game. And right on cue, looks like Hayden Castle and Levi Lamb are in the house, so we'll bring them onto the program.
Right.
Thanks, Coach, as always.
Absolutely.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, that was head men's basketball coach Lee Burgess previewing Tuesday's matchup versus Piedmont at the Bosch, 7:30 p.m. And excited to have these next two guests. Hayden Castle and Levi Lamb. Castle, sophomore out of Kingsport, Tennessee, Dobbins Bennett High School, wears number 23 on the uniform. And Levi Lamb, senior forward, uniform number 1 out of Atlanta, Georgia, Hapeville Charter School. Gentlemen, thanks for joining the program.
Thank you.
Well, great to have you on here. Well, what I do want to start with is celebrate this guy's accomplishments just a little bit, because he passed the 1,000-point barrier, which is a tough thing to do. It speaks to a player's longevity. Certainly, you got to score a lot of points, to get there to 1,000. Sometimes it's easier to talk about your teammates than talk about yourself. So I'll start with you, Hayden, on this one. Did you guys know that he was approaching the 1,000-point mark when he went over it? Were you guys kind of paying attention to that?
We knew before the game started that he was close, but as a team, that's not really what we focus on. But it goes to show how hard Levi works. He comes to work every day in practice. Always giving his best, and it just goes to prove that, he's worked so hard for this 4 years here at Brevard, and I'm just glad it pays off.
Yeah, in Levi, I'm sure, at some point, hopefully, you've had the chance to reflect a little bit, because when you go over a milestone and you read the headlines that, hey, you broke the 1,000 mark, just the 5th player in Brevard College history to do it in the NCAA era. Were you able to reflect back a little bit and maybe think about, sort of the other people who might have helped you get there?
I haven't had like a full reflection yet, but yeah, I thought a little bit about it, of like the trust LB and KJ, and now it's put into me to continue to work hard, and the faith they put into me to help lead this team basically. So I'm real blessed to have them on my corner and have Coach LB as my coach and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm just blessed. I can't even fit into words.
So over the 3,000 or 1,000 point barrier versus Covenant on Tuesday of last week, and then Saturday, an absolute dogfight at Pfeiffer. I mean, this thing was just a back to, battle royale, who's the last man standing kind of thing, whatever sort of metaphor you want to put to it.
Yeah.
But from you all's perspective, I know it didn't turn out the way it went, but did you guys kind of feel that way while you're playing the game, that, man, this is a knockdown, drag-out, last man standing sort of affair?
We knew that it was going to be a fight. Like any game that we go into is going to be, a dog fight, and we got to come ready to play every game. And we played to the game plan just like Coach LB gave us, and we just kept trying, and then in the end we got into overtime, and we kept playing, and it just so happened the ball rolled their way.
Yeah, like Hayden said, they always like a tough team to play. They real scrappy group, try to turn you over a lot and play quick. So we knew going into the game that it was going to be pretty tough. But we tried our hardest and played our hardest, and they came out on top. But we like how we played the game.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully one of those where everybody's holding their chin up high, like, hey, we gave it all we had,
Yeah.
and we'll go on to the next one. Do want to recap it just a little bit more, though. Levi scores a career-high 30 points in that affair. And Hayden, some key moments kind of down the stretch with you in some critical minutes. You had an offensive rebound and then a jumper to cut the deficit to 48-45. That was sort of a little moment there where you felt like, all right, is Pfeiffer gaining control of this thing? And, Tornadoes storm back, send this thing into overtime, and then the overtime goes Pfeiffer's direction. Levi, we heard Hayden, kind of talk your praises. Can you talk a little bit about this guy?
Yeah, Hayden's a guy that comes to every practice going hard, like giving his best, trying to get everybody better. I can't remember no practice where I can see that he's just like dazing off or just not going hard. Like he works hard every day to get to the spot he at now, and he's going to continue to do so. And he's gotten better each and every day, and I love playing with him.
Well, I've been lucky enough to work with Hayden some behind the scenes with some of our other sports and our, broadcasting work and that kind of thing, and it's been fun to get to know Hayden. And while I kind of know your story, would like to, inform the audience a little bit. Kingsport, Tennessee. Can you talk about sort of your journey, getting into competitive basketball and then ultimately coming here to Brevard?
I'm sure like all other college basketball players, I started playing basketball at a young age, and then it just kind of grew to be my favorite sport and my passion. And I decided my senior year of high school at Dobbins-Bennett High School that I decided I wanted to be a college basketball player, and I started putting work in every day, and that was one of my dreams, was to be a college basketball player. And I was at an AAU tournament in Brevard with Coach KJ and Coach LB. That's when I first met them. In the August my senior year in high school, and I just fell in love when I took a tour here at Brevard. I love the place it's at. It's not too far from home, but it's far enough away, and I love everything about Brevard.
Well
place.
said, Hayden. And I see Levi nodding his head. Now, senior year, coming down the home stretch. What are the things you love about Brevard?
I love the location. How, like he kind of said, like it's not that far from Atlanta, but it's far enough. It's real chill down here. Not a lot of stuff to do, but like as an athlete, I feel like that's great for me, so I can continue to work on my game and get better and study more. So, and I'm a laid back dude, so this is like the perfect type of school for me.
All right, back to business. Tomorrow, Tuesday night at the Boschmer Gymnasium, 7:30 p.m. a matchup versus Piedmont, this USA South Conference. You know,
Yeah.
every game is a battle, like you said. But this is a big one, and you guys get the benefit of being back on your home court with the student section, which is something you haven't seen in a long time.
Right.
Can you talk about how big that's going to be and how good that feels to finally have a home game after all these road games?
I'm almost positive we'll come out ready to play. You know, being back at home, having our shots fall, and we're looking forward to it. We'll be ready to play.
Yeah, the same. I haven't seen our fans in a minute, seem like, but yeah, it's going to be a good atmosphere and try to bring back a W.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you guys know it because you're affected by it on the court. I like to hear just how that goes for y'all, but I can sense it when I'm doing a game there, from the broadcasting standpoint. When that place gets going and when the student section is rocking, it's a loud environment at the Boschberg Gymnasium. Can you talk about home court advantage a little further, and when the crowd gets loud, how that helps you guys and also makes it difficult on the opponent?
It does. I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of all the players on the team, but whenever, we can go on a run, and then if the crowd, erupts, and then I feel like it just brings, a different type of energy to the players on the floor, the players on the bench, and then everyone in the crowd, and it just, it gives us the momentum, and it wants us to, play harder, just play tougher and all that stuff.
Yeah, like he said, and it gives us more confidence during the game. Like if I'm maybe if I'm at Pfeiffer and I'm taking a shot, I don't feel as confident at Pfeiffer than I'm at Brevard because I got my people that go to class with and the family there, and it's just a good atmosphere to be in.
Very good. Well, fellas, I'll let you go so you can continue those preparations for tomorrow's game.
Yes,
fans, come on out, 7:30 p.m. at the Boschmer Gymnasium. See these two as well as the entire Brevard College Tornadoes men's basketball team face off against Piedmont. It's also the Coaches versus Cancer suits and sneaker game at the Bosch. And one last thing, because I do want to, especially since Hayden's here and I know he's got a special relationship with who I'm going to talk about next. Before I let you guys go, do want to give a shout out to Russell McKay, Team
Russell.
Impact,
Yes,
the honorary Tornado, who's, I know in your all's hearts every single night you guys lace it up. Can you guys each talk a little bit about Russell or maybe give him a shout out? I know he watches the show often.
Yeah, Russell fights every day harder than anybody knows, and we love to see him on the bench supporting us, and he's just a great person to be around. Can't wait to see what he accomplishes.
Yeah, shout out to Russell, great kid, chill kid, he's not bad or nothing like that, and great to have him around the team, so look forward to seeing him win more games and practice and stuff like that.
Very good. Well, likewise, always enjoy seeing him. He kind of energizes the team just
Yes,
like
sir.
that home crowd
Yes, sir.
student section can. Well, fellas, good luck tomorrow versus Piedmont. We'll see you over there at the Bosch, and great job tonight on Tornado Talk.
Thank
you.
All right, that was Hayden Castle and Levi Lamb previewing that Brevard College versus Piedmont men's basketball game. That's Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. at the Boschmer Gymnasium. It's also Coaches versus Cancer suits and sneaker game. And also just one more congratulations to Levi Lamb going over the 1,000-point barrier. Just the fifth player in the NCAA era in Brevard College men's basketball to do so. And he's continuing to add to that total with 30 points in the game at Pfeiffer. And we'll shift gears now to talk women's basketball. Join as we are every Monday night during women's basketball season, head coach Donald Hudson. Coach, thanks for joining the program.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me again.
Well, two very compelling games. Both didn't turn out exactly the way we wanted, but worth breaking down a little bit because they were fascinating affairs from an observer standpoint. If anybody who's sort of a student of basketball, there was plenty to study in these two. And the first one was a game against Maryville at the Boschmer Gymnasium. This thing came down to a 68-66 final score. Tornadoes had a chance to either tie or win the game with 4.1 seconds. A shot by Destiny Williams just bounces out. And a tough defeat to Maryville. But I know you're proud of how the team hung in there and fought hard down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a game, felt felt good about it after the game. We're not really into moral victories, but we took some positives from it. It was a game where we came out and the girls did a good job of internalizing the scout report and defending the things that we talked about. And they defended it at a high level. We did a really good job on their triangle action. They run a dribble drive, and we did a really good job of taking that stuff away. The only thing about that game where we were not as good as we needed to be was on the perimeter. I think we allowed them to hit 14 threes and shot like 60% from three, and that's hard to beat.
Yep.
That's hard to beat. But it was a game we really gave ourselves a chance to win. Saw some improvement. We're starting to hit our stride at the right time. It sucks to lose that game. And I wish we would have came into the locker room and been able to celebrate a win. But there was still some positives to take from it. Like you said, we had a shot in the air as the clock was expiring with a chance to win the game. A decent look considering the situation that we were in. And we kind of got pushed out a little bit further than I wanted to be on that look. But it was a performance where I was extremely proud of my team. They did everything I asked them to do. The only thing that we could have done better was been tougher on them on the perimeter. We were a little soft on our closeouts, and they didn't really feel us on their lifting shoots.
And I mentioned Destiny Williams. A big part of Brevard's success in this game was strong takes to the basket, foul, go to the free throw line, convert the free throws. Destiny ends up going 9 of 10 from the free throw line. Tornadoes make 11 free throws. Maryville only made 4 free throws in this game. Can you talk about that and how, especially if you're battling from behind, how important that is to get to the charity stripe?
Yes, sir. That's something we want to do every game, no matter what the score is. We want to always play an aggressive style of basketball. We want to put the pressure on them on the rim and driving the basketball and put them in positions where they have to make a decision if they're going to foul or let us lay it up. And I thought we did a decent job of that. Destiny's a very aggressive player. Like you said, she went to the line 10 times. That's something that she can continue to build upon, especially when you're playing from behind. You get to stop the clock and catch your breath and go make a couple free throws. It also gives you time to set up some of your pressure. So that was good towards down the stretch. That's how we kind of got back into the game. They went on a stretch coming out of the third quarter. We really haven't been good in third quarters this year, but they went in like a 5 or 6-0 run to start the quarter, but we kind of composed ourselves and got back into the basketball game. And those free throws were a big part of that in the fourth quarter.
Now, following the defeat to Maryville, who, by the way, 12-4 overall, 5-2 in the USA South Conference is what they improved to, so a very formidable opponent. You take on perhaps an even tougher opponent in Berea, who undefeated in the USA South Conference on top of the West Division, and Tornadoes very much hung with Berea throughout this game. Cut it, well within single digits, several times late in this deal. Ends up falling 64-53. Deja Riddick with her third double-double of the season with 15 points and 10 rebounds. Coach, can you talk us through that one, against this tough Berea club?
Yeah, really good team. Really good team. They can really score the basketball. So we knew going into that game that if we were not on top of our defensive rotations and our pick and roll coverages, they would take advantage of it. Another game that we took some positives from, didn't come out on the winning end, got off to a really slow start. 15-5 in the first quarter, and outside of that quarter, we kind of played them even. So that slow start kind of bit us in the butt a little bit late. But another performance where we really internalized the things that we talked about. We added something with our pick and roll coverages this game, and it was something that kind of caught them by surprise. And we did a good job of that. I want to commend my big, Krista Davis. She did a really good job of getting out, hedging those ball screens, and keeping those guards out of the paint. I think this game came down to, for one, the slow start. The really slow start that we got off to, and we put them on the free throw line a ton of times. We didn't do a good job of defending with our feet. We fouled them on a couple of drives, and just that's something that we got to continue to harp on in practice. Just making sure we're moving our feet, showing our hands to the ref, and making them score it over the top. We have players that are ball hawks at times that like to get steals and like to get blocks, but that kind of puts us in some bad positions sometimes as far as fouling. I think they went 34 times. I think they made 28 or 29. So something of that nature, and you can't give a team 34 free throw attempts.
Right.
And so I think that was our undoing in that game, the slow start and the free throws. Other than that, I thought we played a complete basketball game. Another game where I was able to go into the locker room after the game and talk to the team about where we go from here. I didn't really have to go in and talk about effort and energy. That stuff was there. It was there. And I think like I said, we're hitting our stride at the right time. And we're playing good basketball right now. We've played two really tough opponents, and had a chance to beat both of them. So I'm proud of the girls and for being resilient. We've had some losses that have been tough, but we come into the gym and we practice hard every morning, and it's starting to show. It's starting to show. So hopefully we can keep that up. We have Piedmont on Wednesday, another tough team. 3 in a row that's going to be really tough. But I like my team. We're going to go down. We're going to go in tomorrow and put our game plan in. We'll travel on Wednesday and hopefully come back with a win.
That's right. Wednesday night at DeMorris, Georgia, the USA South Conference matchup at Piedmont. Now, Coach, back to the Berea game. Taisha Washington made her return, and I know Taisha's been chomping at the bit to get back out there on the court, and she, ended up putting together 20 minutes in this contest. You could tell an immediate spark the moment she, came off the bench and onto the court. Recovering from a hand injury, up until this point, but now, cleared by the doctors and ready to roll. Can you talk about how important that was to get Taisha back?
It was great. It was great. Just as bad as she wants to get back out there, we needed her out there just as bad. She was able to get out there, and she kind of puts everybody at a little bit of ease playing that point guard position, because we know that when she's on the floor, teams can't really pressure us full court. She can't. She's a point guard to me that should never get trapped or never get pressed. And when teams do that, I've talked to her about getting the ball in certain spots, and we'll shoot wide open threes and we'll get dump downs. And she plays at a gear that we've missed from that position going into that game. But getting her back and just getting her rhythm and everything, that's going to be the biggest thing. Now, you can tell that the first play when she checked in, they tried to press her, and she split the press, got to the opposite free throw line, and was kind of out of rhythm a little bit. Just got to get back in that rhythm, and she turned it over. But that's the game we're on. I could see some of that rhythm coming. I played her a little too long, a little bit longer than I intended to. The game was close, and she was doing some good things, and I could tell it was really rubbing off on the rest of the team, and we were kind of vibing off of her energy. So she played around 20. I wanted around 17. It's good to have her back.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, we're going to have Taisha on the program in just a few moments, but we're also going to hear from Elena Perez, a senior out of Zephyr Hills, Florida, wears number 10 on her uniform. Can you tell folks a little bit more about Elena Perez?
Yeah. I got Elena 3 years ago from Florida. She came in and as a freshman, and she had to play more minutes than she expected, because that year we had injuries and we had a few players that kind of rendered themselves ineligible. So she was forced into the lineup. And getting those minutes early in that year, that was good for her career. She stepped away from the game for 2 years, and now it's great to have her back. She came back her senior year and asked me if the opportunity was still there, and it wasn't a second thought. There was no hesitation. Come on. If everything's good, everything's clear, come on back out here, because I know what she represents. She's really about the right things, a player that you never have to worry about doing anything to compromise your program. Always going to be where she needs to be, when she needs to be there, taking care of business in the classroom. She just represents us in the right way. A player that I know when she graduates after this year is going to be super successful in life.
Tremendous. Well, we look forward to talking to her, and we also look forward to seeing the Brevard College Tornadoes women's basketball team back in action at Piedmont this Wednesday, 6 p.m. in DeMorris, Georgia. And then next chance for fans to see the Tornadoes at the Boschmer Gymnasium. They'll be back in town on Saturday, January the 25th, home game versus Huntington. Coach, final words as we prepare for these two games.
I just always want to thank everybody for coming out and checking us out for the home games. That support really means a lot. We're going to continue to put a good product on the floor and try to bring in some wins. But one thing I want to see from our team down this stretch is continue to execute the things we do in practice. If we can do those things game in, game out, even if the results aren't what we want, you can live with it. We can live with us going out every game and doing the things we do in our practices. If the team is just better than us that night, okay. All right, but as long as we're doing what we're supposed to do, I don't have any problems with it.
Makes a lot of sense, Coach. Well, Coach, good luck on the road trip to Piedmont, and then we'll see you back here at the Boschmer Gymnasium versus Huntington this coming Saturday.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
for joining the show. Look
Thanks
forward
for
to
having
talking
me
now
on.
to Elena and Taisha. Thanks, Coach.
Yes.
All right, Brevard College women's basketball. Come on out to the Boschmer Gymnasium this Saturday when the Tornadoes host Huntington. That'll be another key USA South Conference matchup for the Tornadoes, and looking forward to talking to these next two guests representing that Brevard College women's basketball team. Joined now by Taisha Washington and Elena Perez. Ladies, thanks for joining the program.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Well, it's a thrill to have you two on, and for kind of different reasons, because we've been looking forward to talking to Elena and sort of like big picture. You're back here for your senior year and so forth, and talking to Taishay sort of like on the micro, because you just came back from your injury and made your debut. So we'll start with you, Taishay. This past weekend, you finally got back out there. I've been seeing you in these pregame warm-ups, just chomping at the bit. You've been ready, but you needed that final clearance, and you finally got back out there on the court, played 20 minutes this past weekend. Can you talk about how it felt to finally get some game action under your belt?
Felt good. The best thing about it was being able to be there for my team or whatever, being that person that they missed and being able to get back out there and do what I love to do. So nothing better than that.
And Elena, can you talk about how cool it was to get Taishay back into action?
We were all excited. We've been waiting. We both, she's my finger injury buddy. So having her back out there was, really calming. And, for the team, we all, kind of bonded, a lot over it. And we were able to, nail stuff down a lot better.
And, Elena, we talked to your coach a little bit about sort of your journey, in playing as a freshman here and now back your senior year. Can you talk about it from, your perspective, how it's been and how good it feels to be part of the team as a senior?
It definitely feels a lot better. I feel whole. I had to step away for a few years, and when I went to the coach and asked him, it was very welcoming, and I didn't have any worries. And I've been trying to practice over the summer, trying to get back into things because I was definitely not been playing, but it was very awesome to be able to come back and because I remember some of them being so small and young, and then now seeing them how much they've grown, it was really astonishing. So.
And Taishay, I see you nodding your head. Can you talk a little further about how cool it is to have a senior like Elena as part of the team?
Yeah, I know. Part of our freshman year, she started with us or whatever. She built a good bond. She's a very cool person at that. And when she had to, dismiss herself from the team or whatever, we all were kind of, hurt by it because we did build something with her. But when we found out she was back, it was you back, finally, we were all just happy to have her. It's like she said, it's my finger injury buddy.
That's right. Now, Elena, Zephyr Hills, Florida. I think you're the first tornado I've met from Zephyr Hills. It's in there in Central Florida. Can you talk a little bit about your journey as far as finding Brevard and winding up, from Florida now here in the mountains of Western North Carolina?
It's definitely a travel. I've various small places, kind of like Brevard, if not a little bit smaller. But having the coaches at that time, Coach Hud was the assistant coach, and he's the one that really reached out to me when I came to the visit. I was the one that talked to him one-on-one. And he really made it feel like home because I was looking at other schools, but this school felt like the most home. And so it was immediately there was no hesitation. I was that's where I wanted to go. So.
Nice. And Taishay, I can imagine you've reflected back from time to time during your career on, hey, how did I wind up here? What were those little steps and that path? Can you kind of tell viewers a little bit about how you started in Charlotte, North Carolina as a high school basketball player, and now you're here at Brevard?
Yeah, this was very last minute for me. I was already, I had my eyes on Greensboro College, and Coach Hud texted me or called me. I can't really remember which type of communication he did, but he found me and kind of very much persuaded me to come on a visit, get to see the campus, how things are around Brevard, and I was immediately attracted to it, the area of being so smally populated. For me growing up in a big city, coming somewhere that's different where the class population is 15, or maybe less, and the people around here, the staff, I couldn't ask for a better environment, and he kind of caught my attention head on. So no doubt about it. I was ready to come here immediately.
Excellent. And you mentioned the class sizes. I would like to learn a little more about you all's academics and, if you've declared a major, what that might be and what your plans are with that major.
Yeah, I major I got my Bachelor of Arts for Exercise Science and a minor in coaching. since I've been here, I've pretty much kept a 3.2 and up GPA, at a 3.5 for the past semester. You know, at first when I got here, I did want to major in business, but as like time went by, I kind of like got more attracted to one of the most important majors here, which is exercise science, and just went and kept that from there.
And it might be able to keep you in this
Yeah.
wonderful sport of basketball long term. And how about yourself, Elena?
I'm a health science major. I'm doing the BS in it, and I'm also a psychology minor. So it's been rough these last few years, especially like the last 2 years. The classes are getting harder and harder, but it's working. I've been doing good and stuff, and I want to be a PA when I graduate. So that's hopefully the plan.
Challenging, I'm sure, but all that knowledge is going to pay off as you enter the workforce. Now, next up, a trip to Demorest, Georgia, at Piedmont. Now that we've got this, Taishe's back out of the way, it's time to get into a rhythm and start taking on these USA South Conference opponents. Taishe, has Coach talked to you at all yet about the game plan for Piedmont, or just overall, what do you all see as the key as far as you guys getting the win at Piedmont?
The key for us to win is to actually attention to details. Tomorrow in practice we're supposed to go over their scout, kind of get to know them better. And he's told me that they're very different from, the past 2 years I've been here and I played them. He said they are struggling a bit, so that's kind of a eye-opener like we normally would. They'll probably get us out of our game, and beat us when they're not a team that we can't beat. Well, there is no team that we really couldn't beat. Just don't pull out with the wins like we want. But if we really focus and practice and really pay attention to what Coach trying to tell us about the team, then we'll really look forward to getting on that bus ride back to Brevard with a dub.
Elena, anything to add to that as far as this trip to Piedmont goes?
I'm excited to see it because the past 2 games, how they've gone, we've actually been fighting and we're finally coming together really well. So I feel if we keep the momentum that we've been having, that coming into the next game it will be a very good game. So I'm excited to see it.
Very good. Before I let you go, I always like giving student athletes this opportunity. People could be tuning in live or on replay, and I would like to give you the opportunity to give a shout out or a thank you to anybody who may have helped you along the way and you might want to say hello to.
I don't know nobody's that's really watching, but I can thank my coach for having me here and getting me to where I am today. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, same. Thank you to the coach. Thank you to family, friends for supporting us, and also our teammates. So, yeah.
Very nice. Well, very well done tonight on the show, ladies. Good luck this week at Piedmont. We'll see you back at the Bosch on Saturday for that game versus Huntington. And keep up the great work, ladies. Great job tonight.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, that's Elena Perez and Taishe Washington. As the women's basketball team continues their preparations for a trip to Demorest, Georgia at Piedmont this Wednesday, and then home this Saturday versus Huntington, 2 p.m. at the Boschmer Gymnasium. And been looking forward, I think it's been about a calendar year since we talked to Coach Luke Jakes.
Doing?
Shift gears, talk a little football. Coach, thanks for joining the program.
Thanks. Happy Martin Luther King Day.
Indeed, certainly a key holiday, in the world of, American history and so forth. Now, Coach, you're coming off just a sensational season on the defensive side. Your first season as defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
At some point in this interview, I'm going to go through all these statistics, and we'll get to celebrate them one more time. But I'd like to start with this. It was your first year as DC, and the team, enjoyed all sorts of success defensively, but also the trip to the bowl game and the win at the bowl game and so forth. Best season in school history.
Yeah.
Now that you've probably had a chance to sort of reflect on it, can you put it into words, from your standpoint, just how meaningful it was?
Man, it was so meaningful. Actually, we've been talking about it recently as a staff, just the culture change that happened over the first 3 years. It was just so rewarding to see how we've had this turnaround gosh, a lot of sweat, a lot of tears, a lot of just hard work to get where we got, and it was just so rewarding to see our guys do this. So, I mean, gosh, it was, and we were such a close-knit group. I know defensively we were extremely close, so it was extremely rewarding, to say the least.
Outstanding. Well, we've talked about it, throughout this 2019-2020 athletic season, but history, record-breaking season, best in school history, ends up with a 42-28 win over Carnegie Mellon at Carnegie Mellon, a storied program, and the Tornadoes win the Scotty Whitelaw Bowl up there. Can you reflect back on that afternoon? And as the time was ticking away on the scoreboard and you guys could finally exhale and realize that, you guys were able to accomplish the best season in school history, can you put that into words?
Gosh, so surreal. It was after the game we won. It was just honestly one of the best moments of my life. I just felt like I was in a dream almost for 30 minutes, just everybody celebrating and everybody just on cloud nine, you know what I mean, for so long. So, gosh, that was special as well. Definitely a top 10 moment in my life.
Nice.
doing that win.
Well, I promise to beat our chest a little bit about some of these statistics. Several school records and top of the USA South Conference in all sorts of categories. New single-season school record with 19 interceptions, 23 turnovers, just 105 points allowed. That's over the course of 10 games. Just over 11 points per game allowed. Just incredible numbers. And the 19 interceptions finishes the regular season tied for third in all of NCAA Division III football. So the interception was such a big part of sort of the identity of the defense. As the defensive coordinator and also with your history as a defensive backs coach, can you talk about that, as far as, hey, the emphasis on INTs and also getting those type of numbers?
Yeah. I'm a big, I don't know if I should be saying this if coaches are looking, but just kidding. But I'm a big emphasis on zone coverages and fire zones. And I think when you run zone coverages, you have much more opportunity to get interceptions because you're actually looking at the quarterback a lot of the times. Whereas in man coverage, it's a very good coverage, but a lot of times you're not looking at the quarterback, you're playing the man. So I think with our fire zones and how much pressure we got, our DBs, Coach Gobea does such a good job, and our linebacker coaches, Coach Nelson, Coach Fitzgerald do such a good job of teaching them to what we call is read tone. So we read the posture of the quarterback. And we talk about pulling the pin when he pulls the pin, and we break on the ball, and we practice that all the time. I think that was just such an emphasis in practice that it came to fruition in games, and our guys were just bought into it, and it was huge for us. And I just think we had talented guys too. Some of our guys played offense in high school, and like Jock Pledger, you know what I mean. These guys were natural athletes. So I mean, it was something we practiced, but it was also kind of built into our system too. Like I feel like our system's built on disguising and having traps, and kind of built for that, and it worked out for us.
Yeah, you mentioned Jock Pledger. I would like to mention two other individuals, Dante Anderson and Stefan Kennedy. These two got some national recognition after the season. All ECAC first-team honorees, also nominees for the Cliff Harris Award, which is a very prestigious award for the nation's top small college defensive player. Can you talk about those two? And, I'm sure from your perspective, you were quite pleased that they were getting the recognition they deserved.
Right. Ironically, actually, I just was we had a visitation day today, and I happened to be walking through the weight room, and who are the two guys I see in there was Stefan Kennedy and Dante Anderson. So honestly, all the kudos to them. I mean, those guys work extremely hard. I know it means a lot to them, and they work really hard, and they really care, and they're really good guys. I was really happy that they got recognition for that. I think they're both going to be seniors next year. I think the sky's the limit for both of them. I think they're extremely talented, and I've coached at a junior college level, a Division II level, and I think they're every bit as good as guys I've seen. And I'm really just happy for them because they really wanted it, but they also really worked hard for it. Those guys train. I mean, I'm really excited to see what they could do next year. But I mean, gosh, great guys. Work hard in practice. Work hard in the weight room. Work hard in the classroom. No issues. I mean, they're just a dream. So I mean, we're extremely fortunate that they play for us.
You mentioned how the team's culture has evolved, and you also mentioned, Visitation Day and the idea of, recruiting new student athletes to come here and be a part of this Brevard College football program.
Mm-hmm.
Can you, generally speaking, describe the sort of student athlete you're looking for and who is the right fit for this culture you all have developed?
Yeah, we just want guys that are going to be great teammates. We want guys that are going to buy into the system and just love football. I mean, if they are going to work hard in the classroom and work hard on the field, and they're just genuinely good people, that's what we want. I think was an understatement for us. Is for as good as we were this year, we talked about it as a defensive staff, especially, like, all our guys, like, we're just good guys. And I think that meshed them together. And I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but defensively, we were just a family. Like, everybody was really close, and those guys had a blast on, bus rides and in locker rooms, and I think they'll just remember it for the rest of their lives. But when we recruit, Coach Kite always makes an emphasis, like, hey, call the head coach, ask him if, how he feels about this kid, and we don't want him if the background doesn't come through. And I'm genuinely, truly believe in that now because of what I've seen. We've put that ahead of winning, actually, and ironically, we won because we put the culture and we put the character and integrity above anything else. And I think that was the biggest lesson for me as a young coach, just seeing that come to fruition. And it was led by Coach Kyatt, and I totally am all in about, that's how you build a program. And so that's the kids we're looking for, really the kids we have now, which is awesome.
Well, really an exciting time for prospective student athletes to, jump on this train, the way things are going. And I truly believe, the best is even yet to come. Now, the other opportunity these student athletes have is a chance to be coached by a top-notch coaching staff with all sorts of experience, NFL-type experience, but also, yourself included. You mentioned, the younger coaches, some real talented young minds as well. Can you talk about being a part of a coaching staff that includes guys who've played and coached in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, all those guys. Coach Easter, he played here. I mean, he's a great coach. I mean, he knows D-line better than I do. I mean, and I'm supposed to know more, as being the defense coordinator, but he was just a tremendous coach, and he was bought in and did all the, the muddy work that a lot of people don't do. I mean,
which does a lot to just go immediately from being a student athlete and then just year one of the coaching experience to, do what you're saying.
Yeah, no, he has a bright future for sure. I think he has a very bright future. I think he's going to be a big-time coach. Coach Nelson, I mean, great guy. Did so much. I mean, he did so much for our team that a lot of people don't know about, with video, with recruiting, with the, social media, with he ran the scout team, and he also coached the inside linebackers, you know what I mean? And then Coach Fitzgerald, he's up there in the box with me. He sees everything. I mean, he's very talented at that, and he did a great job with those outside backers, had an outstanding year and with recruiting as well. And Coach Govea, Coach Govea can coach, the defensive backs, in my opinion, anywhere. He totally understands, the defensive backfield, and our safeties, traditionally he's been here the past 3 years, have been very, very good. I think he's an all-conference player every year he's been here. And then we had Neil, helped us out a lot, was extremely helpful, and helped along with the defense. And I mean, those guys were really, really good and really bought in, and I really appreciated them because, without them, we wouldn't be here. And it was just so much fun to go in to work every day. This was like the best, work, year of my life by far. And especially because I got to work with those guys on a day-to-day basis, and good people as well, but also, hard workers, and really, really cared, and it showed. So.
Yeah, and it certainly, the results showed as well. The best season in school history, and capped by that bowl win at Carnegie Mellon. Coach, as we head towards next season, can you kind of tease a little bit, what's coming next?
gosh, man, you know what's funny is I almost want to get more simple. You know, we were pretty simple as a defense. We would maybe have, honestly, as wild as this sounds, we maybe would have 7 plays out of 3 different packages, you know, total. And, you know, I just believe, you know, the more simple you could be, the more guys start to learn how to play fast. It's like, what's the Bruce Lee saying, where you do, I fear a man who, you know, does one punch instead of 1,000 punches. He does it 1,000 times instead of 1,000 punches one time. So, I mean, I think our guys, being the first year with this system, we, you know, with the zone coverages and the zone blitzes, you know, some of those guys even started to pick it up. In my opinion, they were good all year, but then they became great towards the end of the year. Like in November, we didn't give up a touchdown for like a few weeks. They really started to understand it, and all these guys return. I mean, the sky's the limit. I think we could be really, really special next year. But
outstanding. Well, Coach, we're thrilled to continue watching the progression of Brevard College football, and congratulations, you know, formally now on this incredible year for the defensive side of the ball and for the team in general, capped by that bowl win, defeating Carnegie Mellon up in Pittsburgh. Coach, best of luck moving forward and through spring practice, and thanks again for joining the show tonight.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, defensive coordinator Luke Jakes. Great to catch up with him, talk a little football here in what seems like the offseason to fans, but they are working hard in those football offices, continuing to recruit future tornadoes here at Brevard College. And we'll shift gears yet again. So we've talked men's hoops, we've talked women's hoops, we've talked some football. Now we're going to talk some track and field and even a little cross country with head track and field and cross country coach Daryl Patrick. Coach, thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, Coach, before we get into the track and field season, do you want to put a bow on last year's cross country season?
Yeah, I mean, I think considering the circumstances and what we had, I think we had a great season. I think we had kids that bought in, understand that training from high school is a little bit different than in college. So I set those expectations really early on. And then obviously with Gavin, my sophomore, he ended up finishing the season really well, ran well at conference, being second team all conference, and then finished in second at the ECAC championships, close neck-to-neck race. So that hard work paid off over the summer, and so hoping to continue that in the track.
Yeah, Gavin Morgan, second place finish, highest finish in his collegiate career on perhaps the biggest stage of his collegiate career at those ECAC championships up in Milton, New York. And so great stuff there. And now some of these long distance runners are now turning the page and going to run some events on the track side of things. Can we start there as far as the distance part of the track season?
Yeah, so I mean, I gave my cross country team about a week off from cross country just from the summertime, and obviously the training led on after that. So I gave them a little break to focus on rebuilding and repairing their muscles that they broke down a lot over the season, and plus mentally just to take a little break and then focus on your studies for a little bit. But then we got right back into it, and then we started training back for track about late November with everybody. And Gavin definitely trained really well over the break. He came in really good shape. We did some workouts last week, and he's in good shape. And then Michael Fader and some others, they've been putting in the work as well. So yeah, distance-wise, you got different variables. You got your mid-distance runners, 800, 1500, which is like the metric mile, they say. And then you got your 5K and 10K people, even steeplechase. So yeah, a wide variety. And so whether you're a mid-distance or a long distance, I know might sound crazy, but you still got to do cross-country to help get that good cardio, good like strength endurance for the track. So people have their preferences, cross-country or track, and most people tend to be a track person because people actually get to see them race a whole lot. Where in cross-country, you're in a cross-country course, you don't really get to see them a whole lot. Yeah, it's interesting to train because my philosophy is, I want to train you how you want to be trained. If you want to be a mid-distance runner, I'll train you that way. If you be a long distance, I'll train you that way. Obviously, I have my input on some things, or we might try out some different races to see if it's going to work or not. But yeah, and with that, the training is different. Like you know, longer distance runners, they're high mileage or higher mileage most of the time, and then you know your mid distance are kind of more lower mileage, but still getting a lot of good quality and focus on more speed work, stuff like that. So yeah, and every runner is different. You know, you might think you know you have a group of runners that might fit together and gel together, but one responds to a different workout compared to another person. So you try to figure that out, especially the first year or two with an athlete, what works and what doesn't. But then by junior, senior years, when you really start seeing them take those next levels.
Now, I'd be remiss not to mention the location that we're at here
Yeah.
in Brevard, North Carolina, and you know, one of the most desirable spots for long distance runners to come and train.
Absolutely.
Now, my question is this though. When you turn the page as a long distance runner and you're focused on track events,
Mhm.
do you still utilize, you know, the trails and
Oh, yeah.
the outdoors side of things
Yeah,
here?
absolutely. So what I've been doing right now, I'm trying to see if this works, is you know on recovery days, quote unquote, they tend to go out and go on trail runs on their own. I try to tell them not to go on too climby trails just because of the wear and tear over time with the track workouts. And then yeah, there might be a couple workouts throughout the week that we might go to DuPont or check out more of the Pisgah trails and just do some like hill repeats or something like that. But yeah, it's definitely a good necessity to have those trails at your disposal 5 to 20 minutes away. So
Now, moving from mid-distance and long distance to sprints, the Tornadoes last year won the 4x100 meter relay at the ECAC Outdoor Track and Field Championships in New Haven, Connecticut. A big feather in the cap for the Tornadoes track and field program. The sprinters this year, I'd imagine several of these guys are
Yeah.
right back and
Yeah.
ready to go
Yeah,
and probably
they-
ready
yeah.
to even up their times,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, even further.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
you talk about the strength of your sprinters?
Yeah, I definitely would say that's our strength, our biggest strength. And so yeah, we bring a couple back with Quentin Jackson and Jamiro Parks, and they had a fantastic season last year. It just kind of bought into the system. It took a while to get him back in that kind of track shape, you know, coming from that transition from football. But then yeah, once we found a rhythm and you know find what worked and what didn't, yeah, we ran well that day, and that's all that matters, and pulling that off. So we're hoping to repeat that, and so hopefully those two will come in and be good leaders for the next two other people in the relays. So I'm looking at Jacob Morris. He's a freshman from Alabama, and I'm still looking for my fourth one. I'm still looking for that one. So this next about 4 to 5 weeks, I'll kind of get a gauge of who might be that anchor leg. So right now we're in that kind of base building, starting to transition more of the strength training for the sprinters. So right now they're not liking us too much because it's a lot of work and you know, sucking wind in the cold air and stuff. But it'll pay off in the end, hopefully, again in May. So that's all that matters.
Now, you mentioned a couple of football student athletes,
Mhm.
you know, when you were talking about your sprinters and the strength of your sprinters.
Yeah.
We just had defensive coordinator Luke Jakes on the program. Can you talk about track and field programs and how they fit, you know, side by side with football programs
Oh,
at
yeah.
universities?
Oh yes, but I just speak for like Division III schools where you have that opportunity to be more of a dual sport. I mean, you still have some dual sport, you know, Division I, Division II athletes, but you definitely see a lot more in Division III. And I'm very thankful that the coaches, football coaches here, are allowing me to kind of help, you know, keep them in shape, or at least allow them to do another sport that they enjoy to do for a little bit. I know they have, you know, football spring training over the break for a little bit, but at the same time, like I'm just thankful they give me the opportunity to do that, and they seem to enjoy it. They you know, they like to show off their speed a little bit or their athleticism, and that's the beauty of our sport, is that you get to truly see your athleticism. And you know, football, you do see that, but it's a team game. It's more about sacrificing for one another. Where track, you know, even though we're trying to build a team culture, at the end of the day, like, it's just you on that line. It's on you on that lane. So, now 4x1, obviously, it relies on each other, but ultimately it comes down to you. And so I think they really enjoy that part of track and field.
Now, we talked about distance running, we talked about sprinting. Would like to talk about some field events
Yeah.
as well, throwing, jumps, so forth. Can you talk about the Tornadoes and how they're looking in the field events this season?
Yeah, so we're actually getting a little bit stronger there too. I brought in a girl named Keela Oliver. She was third in the state for 1A in shot put this past year for North Carolina and fifth in disc. So she's a good athlete, works hard, knows what it takes to be at that level, since she's a top competitor in the state. So hopefully a lot of that's going to rub off on a lot of the other throwers. And then, Gabriel Covington, he definitely is coming back stronger, definitely put on some weight and good weight and muscle-wise, and so he's looking good. We're continuing to grow there. I'd say, within a couple of years, we're going to try to be more of a well-rounded track and field team.
Now, the season opening meet isn't until Friday, March the 6th, the UNC Pembroke Braves Classic in Pembroke, North Carolina. But, as we've been mentioning, a lot of the preparations are already underway. Can you talk about sort of from now until March 6th, sort of that build-up and prep-wise, how that's going to go?
Yeah, so, like I said, we started back in late November, so right after Thanksgiving, so burn off those calories from the Thanksgiving meals, and then so a lot of them train really hard over the break. So it's basically just like I said, that transition from that, a lot of the longer grueling stuff to kind of getting into more specific stuff, trying to build on those fast twitch muscles. So these next 6 weeks or so, it's kind of building into that. Still hitting the weight room pretty hard, probably about 3 days a week, getting more specific with that. But then, once we get to there, then we start lightening the load more and more and just try to focus on more specific, and that way it gets them primed and ready for the big meets. So, early on, obviously I want to do well early on, but at the same time, I always drill in their head, all that matters is that conference meet and that ECAC meet. And so, hopefully we can get you, going on all cylinders early on, but it's okay if you're not quite running as well or throwing as far. Be patient. Our sport, you gotta live with the ups and downs. So you're gonna have good days, bad days, good throws, bad throws. Good races, bad races. You just move on and just focus on the next day, and eventually the good outcomes will come.
And while you're preparing for the season on the track, I know you always have your radar up for future Tornadoes. And I talked to Coach Jakes about this. Can you kind of describe, sort of generally speaking, the type of student athlete who Brevard College track and field and cross country makes sense for?
So I mean, you want what I look for is this ones that obviously being a student first. You want to be in Division III, you got to be a student athlete. So I look for those who really want to focus on their academics, but also are willing to push themselves and get out of their comfort zones more than they're used to, right? So I look for those athletes that have that mental, I guess, capacity to really push themselves and want to embrace the grind and willing to understand, your first year you're going to see improvements. You might have some jumps in your PRs and stuff. But I always try to make them look at a 4-year plan and understand, when I was an athlete and I was my first year, I wanted to be this kind of person. But then, as you learn, you're going to have some injuries here and there. You're going to have some ups and downs. But then you look back after 4 years, wow, I went from this to this. And so I look for those kind of athletes that understand that it's a patient sport. And you're going to have some PRs and stuff, but you're not never satisfied. You're willing to push harder. So you got to be a certain kind of crazy to kind of do our sport.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, Coach. Appreciate you coming on the program tonight as we preview this year's track and field season. Again, it'll get going in earnest on Friday, March the 6th, and just keep on following Tornadoes on social media as well as bctornadoes.com to stay up to date with all that. Coach, just hang with me here as we wrap up this edition of Tornado Talk. I want to thank all of our guests. Head basketball coach Lee Burgess from the men's basketball program, men's basketball student athletes Levi Lamb and Hayden Castle, head women's basketball coach Donald Hudson, women's basketball student athletes Elena Perez and Taisha Washington, football defensive coordinator Luke Jakes, and the man to my left, head cross country and track and field coach Daryl Patrick. Thank you for all those wonderful guests coming on tonight. I want to thank our sponsors, Arby's, Jets Pizza, Holiday Inn Express, Hampton Inn, Ingles, Mission Sports Medicine, Comporium, Pepsi, and the home of Tornado Talk, Dugan's Pub. Now, folks, come on out to the Boschmer Gymnasium. We've got a couple home games this week for men's and women's basketball. The men's team will be in action tomorrow. That's Tuesday, January 21st, 7:30 p.m. versus Piedmont, another key USA South Conference matchup. It's the Coaches versus Cancer Suits and Sneakers Week game. And then this Saturday, women's will be in action 2 p.m. versus Huntington at the Bosch. Hope to see you at either both or one of those games this week. Follow the latest news and updates surrounding Brevard College athletics on Twitter and Instagram at BC Tornadoes. Subscribe to Brevard College Tornadoes on YouTube. Follow Brevard College Tornadoes on SoundCloud and like Brevard College Athletics on Facebook. Also, go to Flickr, search all one word, Brevard College, and you can find all the latest photos from all Brevard College athletic events and, general campus events. And finally, last but not least, want to thank those behind the scenes, especially Joseph Marvin, for making this program possible.
What a guy.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for you all for tuning in and for your support of Brevard College Athletics. We'll see you next Monday night and hopefully even sooner at the Boschmer Gymnasium for some hoops. That's all for tonight. Go Tornadoes.